Hello, good afternoon. It's Monica from Life is Art, and this is the Saturday 3:30 p.m. demo at the Down East Online Crop. And we had a fun time this afternoon crafting and chatting together. Thank you to those of you who popped on and joined us while we were doing that. And I'm just looking at my camera placement here, and it just looks a little odd. So close your eyes for a second, and I'm going to try and adjust it just a tiny bit and see if that helps. It's just slightly wonky, and it might be even more wonky now. You never know. Let me see. I'm going to go this way. It's just on that weird angle. Sorry, I know. You got to throw everything around, make a mess. Let's see if we can get it. Yeah, it's just not sitting level. Okay, well, it's as good as it's gonna get. We're gonna leave it there so we don't make everybody seasick. We're adventuring in the Atlantic provinces. We don't want to get seasick out on the ocean. So, hey Laura, nice to see you're watching. If you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're joining me later on replay, just say replay. And we have been looking at our featured collection for the month of June. It's in the April to June catalog, and it is called Hello, Darlin. And this afternoon, I'm going to be doing another scrapbooking layout, not one from the catalog. We already did this beautiful one from the catalog, but we are going to be using every single one of these pattern papers. We're going to use a few stickers. We're going to use, we're going to use some white cardstock. We're going to use some of the embellishments. These are navy paperboard and red acrylics. Now, I don't think I pulled out any of the red acrylics, but we're going to use some of the navy paperboard. We're even going to use a couple Picture My Life cards, and we're going to be using some of the items that I stamped up using the Hello Darling scrapbooking stamp set and some photos. So we're gonna get started there. And yeah, Laura, it's all good. I know, I gotta stop messing with the camera. We are going to start with a plain piece of white daisy cardstock as our base, and that is sometimes exciting, but also sometimes a little scary because there's really no indication of what we should do when we start out with a blank piece. I've just got a little piece of adhesive in the center of my base page so that I can stick it down to my Versamat and not have it wander around on me while I'm creating. I'm also going to bring in my ruler because I want to make a couple little marks here. I'm going to be creating a grid with pattern papers. And in order to do that, I want to make sure that my center square is in the right place. So I'm going to kind of start from the 6 inches in and work my way out. I'm using 3-inch squares. So I want to back myself out 1.5 inches from the center. And I want to make a mark right here. Kind of. And I'm going to move it down here a little bit too. And then I want to come from the center here and move myself down to 4.5 inches. And what this will do is it will give me a corner. I know that I have to now line my first 3-inch square up within the bounds of those two lines. And if I need to later, I can come back in and erase those lines. So like I said, we're making a grid, and I've got a bunch of the pattern papers that have been cut to 3 inches by 3 inches. And because these are double-sided papers, you are going to see all of these patterns on this particular layout. And I think that's super fun. And one of the things that I noticed with this paper collection was that there was almost like a quilt feel to it, especially one of the patterns has like a quilting motif on it. And so I think that by making a layout that has sort of that, square grid kind of feel to it, amplifies that feeling of, a down-home quilt. And so I'm just going to line my square up right there along my marks, and hopefully that will then be in the center, because we're going to base everything else on that center one. Quite often when I'm lining up a row of things, I start at the outside too and work my way in so that I know what the spacing is around it. But for this one, there is a center point. So I wanted to get my center one in first, and then I don't have to do any math. Everything else should line up with it, hoping that we've got it in the right place. So another one of the patterns that's in this collection is this one with the beautiful geometric pattern that's just very festive looking. And the back side of it is this beautiful floral. Don't worry, I have another piece, 3x3, that's been cut to match. Now, I could be doing all sorts of things with these. I could edge distress them. I could ink the edges. So many different things I could be doing. I am going to just let the patterns speak for themselves, and just leave them as is. And so I'm going to leave just a tiny little bit of a space there. That might even be a 16th or a 32nd of an inch, just the tiniest little bit of the white daisy showing through. And then I'm going to bring in this pattern with the pretty little stars on it. The back side is this plaid. And so this is kind of nice because when you cut your 3-inch piece to create one square, you can cut right beside it another square and flip it over. And yay, the benefit of having patterns back to back. Then we can go ahead and line this one up. And I'm trying to take my time because I want everything to line up nicely. It's always good to take your time by times. And then let me see if my corner piece will fit in. So I've got this fun design for this. This is really sort of speaks nautical to me, and that will work really well with my photos because I'm jumping ahead a little bit with my photo today. And it's a photo from the one and only Atlantic province that I have ever been to, and that is Newfoundland. Newfoundland. Can I get the word out? Newfoundland. And I went there for my best friend's wedding, and I got to arrive a week early and stay a couple days later. And so I got to do a little bit of sightseeing with her and her family, and it was lovely. Oh my goodness. Such a pretty province. Okay, now I'm also going to be bringing in some Picture My Life cards, because if you are familiar with our paper collections, there are 6 patterns in each collection, back to back, and you get 2 pages of each. And I've already got 4 of them on here. So I only have 2 more patterns. That means to fill in the rest of my grid, I'm going to need to pull from somewhere else. So one of the things I pulled from was Picture My Life cards. And this was a Picture My Life card that was a 3x4, and it had a little dovetailed white part, and there was blue around here, and it was a little bit taller. So I trimmed it down. It was 3 inches this way, so no trimming required. I trimmed a little bit off here to give myself maximum space for writing my journaling, and then I trimmed off the bottom. So now it no longer looks like a dovetailed piece, but I think it really works well with these stripes that are going on over here, and I'm going to put it on the opposite side over here. So we're carrying a similar kind of pattern from one side to the other. The back side had the dovetailed piece going the other direction, but I liked the way that the stripes were going on this, and I purposefully put these stripes going vertical for that reason, so that it didn't counteract with these ones over here. And there we go. Then I'm also going to be adding another Picture My Life card up here, but let's add our spot down here, and I'm going to go for this beautiful floral because I love it. And it's nice to kind of mix up linear patterns with more freeform patterns. So you can see that these three pieces are very linear. And then this one, and this one are very sort of freeform, more circular. And it's really nice when you have that mix. You don't want everything to look the same. And there we go. I can see I cut a little generous there, but that's okay. No worries. There's actually something that's going on top of there, so it will be minimized. And then up here at the top, I want to bring in another Picture My Life card. And this one was fun. It had one of these designs, just sort of a half size on here. This was one of the 4x6 Picture My Life cards. And so I trimmed it down. I liked using the red side, and I also wanted to have that motif at the top. So it gave me a little more of an edge. Whereas if I put it this way around, it would look weird because there's no difference between the background and the shape of the card. So I want to put it this way, and that way it will be more distinct. And I also wanted the red side. You'll see here the back side has the same motif but in blue. But this was a nice bright red down here at the bottom. And I wanted to kind of, again, just like the stripes, I wanted to counteract or match what was happening down there up here. The other thing is the piece that's going to the right of this card is very blue. And so I wanted to pull some of that red up there. So then, just like I said, my next piece is very blue. It's that one that has the design that to me looks like a quilt pattern and kind of gives my brain that idea of quilt. And so I can go ahead and add that one up in the right corner. And the reason I chose this one for this corner is because I am going to be putting the title for my page up here, and I wanted it to be a pattern that wasn't so bright that it distracted from the title. I wanted something that was a little more simple. It's kind of a mix, right? It's linear and that these icons are in rows, but it's not a straight shape per se. So it's kind of a fun mix between these two ideas. And I think it will make a nice background for the title. And then in this corner, I'm actually putting a photo. Oh my gosh, she's actually putting a photo on the layout. And so here we have, this is Cape Spear, which is the farthest east you can go in Canada. And this is a picture of the lighthouse, but I love the perspective of having all of the rock going and leading up, and then you can see the water just going off and fading off into the horizon. So I'm going to go ahead and use this photo in place of a piece of pattern paper in the upper left corner. And the other thing I thought is that we've got blue and blue on either side, which was kind of nice, with that red kind of fun motif happening in the center. Now, of course, we're going to do some embellishing, so other things will be coming into play as we go along. But I'm just going to line this up, stick it down, Cape Spear. And then I have a larger photo that I'm adding on here. And the wonderful thing about adding a larger photo now at this point is that I'm going to tone down some of the patterns. So we do have some rather bold patterns that are happening on here. And by adding this photo, now this has been printed as a 4x4, and then I added a 4 1/8 inch, sorry, 4 1/8? Let me just double check. I think it's 4 1/8. Yes, 4 1/8 inch square piece of white daisy just to give it a bit of a photo mat. And you can see when I place it on top of these four rather bold patterns, I'm cutting down the amount of pattern that you can see, but it's still there. So it kind of gives your eye a little bit of a rest to have that white daisy cardstock and then a nice serene photo. And yes, that is me standing in front of the lighthouse. And I like this too because it's a different perspective. So this is this picture was taken from like way over here if we were looking at this picture. And then this picture is looking from the water towards the lighthouse. So I like having, if you're having the same item in a picture, it's nice to, or the same item in a layout, it's nice to have it from different perspectives, right? So then we can go ahead and add this centered, hopefully, on these 4 patterns. Hey Mom, nice to see you're watching. And Tara's here too. Happy Saturday. Sorry, I stopped looking at the comments for a few minutes there. And then I wanted to bring in a title. And so the title that I chose was actually from the navy die cuts that I was talking about, those embellishments. And it was very, it's very tiny. And it was just the navy. And so when I put it down on here, it almost disappeared because it's very fine. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. The lines were very fine in comparison to these patterns that are busy going on in the background. So what I did was I did the trick that I do where I put the glue on my hand and I tapped my title into it, stuck it on some white daisy, and then I fussy cut around it. Now I did that ahead of time so that the glue had a chance to dry and so that you didn't have to sit here and watch me fussy cut for, a minute or two. So I've already created the title. I'm going to go ahead and you can see now that it stands out from that busy pattern in the background. I'm going to go ahead and add some foam tape onto the back of this and pop it up, make it have even more presence. But that's a fun trick, is to add that little bit of edging around with some plain cardstock. Sometimes I even do 2 layers of cardstock when I'm creating a little more amped up title. And so, I'll do like a white and then do maybe like the sapphire color or something. But I think the white was enough. And there's also going to be sort of little subtitles around this. And I think that will help bring your eye over to this word. So I thought spectacular was a great word to use for the experience that I had. Not only did I see the lighthouse and the gorgeous landscape, but as we were there was a school or a pool, or how you want to say it, a pod of whales that you could see out in the water. And I had my zoom on my camera and I could zoom out and I got a really good picture of like the whale's tail coming and then going back in the water. And it was like, quite a distance out, but it was really fun to stand there on the shore by this lighthouse and see that. Just spectacular. It was literally spectacular. So we're going to add that. Now we're going to add a little more embellishments. So you remember we had our demonstration yesterday showing how to create these layered stamped first, second, and third generation florals using the scrapbooking stamp from the Hey Darlin. I keep wanting to say Hello Darlin. Hello Darlin. It was Hey Handsome and Hello Darlin. Ooh, my video just did something crazy. It went bright green all over the place. Kathleen, yes, love the title. It just works, doesn't it? So I'm going to take one of these flowers and just tuck it under the edge of my photo. And I want it to kind of break out of the grid a little bit. Sometimes when we get things that are very square like this, we need to just have little moments here and there where we allow the decorations, the embellishments to break out of the grid. So you saw when I added my title, broke out of the grid. Now we're coming to the opposite side. We're going to add this little leaf under here and the little flower, and we're going to allow it to break out of the grid again. We're thinking outside the box now. And then I've got a few more here as well. Let's add this guy. We're just going to keep going with the liquid glue because it's right here and it's handy. We'll add, and I'm going to actually go on top of the photo a little bit here because, the main focus is in the center. So we can add just a little something tucked under or tucked on top. And then we'll add our little leaf. Again, it's kind of breaking out. When I did the fussy cutting, you'll notice these leaves. You won't notice it here so much, but I did the fussy cutting. I actually take my X-Acto knife and I cut in between the little leaves. And I don't know, I'm just a little crazy when it comes to fussy cutting. I'm going to add a little bit of foam tape to the back of this blue floral, just to give a bit of dimension. And as I'm gluing these down, as usual, I like to leave the edges. I like to give the edges permission to lift. So I only add glue just in the center or on the stem of the leaves so that, naturally the paper is going to kind of curl a little bit. And I mean, when it's in your photo album, it's going to get in there. So it's not going to make a lot of difference, but it's a technique that I do. So I just allow it to happen. And then I've got one of these ones that I've stamped in second generation Sapphire, and I'm just going to tuck that right under the title there like that, just to kind of give it a little extra something. And then from the same embellishment pack, I've also got some of these die-cut little flags here. These little flags. And what I want to do is kind of attach them here along the corner. So again, we're busting out of our grid, but I need to kind of play with the spacing because I would like to have an odd number of them on my page. But I have to take into account the fact that my lighthouse is here, and I don't want to actually cover the lighthouse because that's kind of an important part of the photo. It's kind of the whole reason. The reason for being there. So I'm going to see what I can do here. Now, I had it kind of positioned earlier, and it looked good. So I'm doing it before I add any adhesive. I'm going to just kind of play with it to see how it has to go. If I only did 3, it would fit a little easier. However, it just looked kind of minimal, which is not a bad thing, but it looked kind of minimal. I think that's looking good. Okay, let's get the glue on there before I move anything. And really, we know that the lighthouse is there because we have the lighthouse down here, right? It kind of clues us in that there's a lighthouse happening there. So, there we go. Sometimes when you have an issue like this, you can flip your photo in photo editing. And I have been known to do that sometimes. If I want to have a photo on this side, but the person is facing out, I'll flip it. But when you're looking at like a location, a landscape, it's a little bit harder because it's like, well, that's not how it looks. That's not actually what the place looks like. And since you took a photo of the place, it might as well look like the place. So you can't always do that. And we'll just continue adding our little banners up here. Does anybody else do that? Flip photos so you get the perspective you want? You got a group of people. I find too, I usually tend to be the only person in my house that takes the photo. So if I want to be in the photo, I have to hold the camera up and do a selfie with the group shot. So my head is always enormous in the one corner of the photo. So I have to learn to get other people to take photos sometimes, right? They always say that the person who takes the photos is never in the photos. And quite often it's the mom. Although my husband is a brilliant photographer. So now we're going to bring in the sticker sheet. And I have a bunch of things that I want to stick on here. I'm up here. I want to do this good times. And I think I'm even going to, no, I was going to go outside, but I think I'll stay inside the square. So we've got good times, spectacular memories. So I'm just going to tuck that memories on there too. So we've got good times, spectacular memories. Then down here along the side, I wanted to add something. I should have written it down. I think it was sunshine. Sunshine? I think so. Yep. And it's got little dovetails already on it, so I'm just going to center it with the dovetails centered on the edge of the photo. And then I also wanted to add a heart, and I haven't quite decided which one I want to use. I think maybe one of these two bigger ones. I think the little one will get, I don't know if you can see that. I think the little one will get lost on all the florals. So I'm going to try one of these bigger ones. And I could even put it on a piece of white daisy and cut around it. See, I have this. This is actually the one I cut spectacular out of. Don't throw away your scraps. You keep using them. So let's stick that on there. Now you get to see me fussy cut. You knew it was going to happen. It's inevitable. But this little buffer of white, and we're so used to seeing it with stickers and die cuts, so our brains don't mind, but it gives our eye a place to rest in between patterns, especially busy patterns, because this is a busy plaid, or check, if you want to call it, and a busy floral. And if we want it to stand out and be noticed, we're going to have to give our eyes a buffer. And I think I'm even going to pop it up with some foam tape. And now that we've taken the sticky off by adding it onto cardstock, I don't even have to use my anti-static pouch to do anything. Now, if you noticed, I was cutting foam tape earlier, then I fussy cut, and then I went back to foam tape. And that's because my non-stick micro tip scissors aren't affected by the sticky from, I just dropped that on the floor, from the foam tape. I think that's awesome. All right, now let's kind of decide. I think we're going to put that right there. Sunshine. I better put the lid on my glue before I forget. And then, trying to remember, I think I was going to do Love This over here on my photo. And I'm going to stick it here and cover up these random people that I don't even know who they are. See that? That's a nice technique. If you have a nice landscapey picture like that with somebody you really want in the picture, I mean, there's still two other people over here. But these people, I don't know who they are. And this guy's turned around. All you see is the backside of him. If I take this little sticker and just stick it right on there, whew, look at that. Beautiful photo editing. It works perfectly. It hides them just like that. And then, what else? I think I was thinking that might have been it. That might be everything that I wanted to do on there. Of course, I need to add some journaling right here. I'm trying to remember whether because I was looking at these little florals, thinking, oh, I could put florals on there, but I think I want to leave them plain. I just want to have them there. They're kind of a dark spot. We've got sort of dark here, dark here, dark here. So we've created a visual triangle with the darks. We've got very busy, very busy, very busy. So we've created a visual triangle with those. We have 3 groups of sort of florally things, because I kind of consider this to be sort of florally. So that's another triangle. And we've got 2 photos, but we're going to have our journaling over here. So that kind of gives us a triangle that way. So even though our layout is a grid, we've got all sorts of visual triangles happening. And that is something that our brain loves. So all I need to do is finish up my journaling on here from my trip to Cape Spear. And so we started out with just our plain white daisy cardstock. We added on our 3x3 squares of all the different pattern papers available in the collection. Popped in a couple Picture My Life cards cut down to the same size. Added in a photo to fill up one extra space. And then, of course, we've got our large photo, which has been mounted and added on top of these patterns to kind of tone down the busyness, bumped up our title by adding some cardstock in behind that fun die cut, and we did some thinking outside the box with some of our embellishments, adding a few extra little bits here and there, and that is our completed layout. I hope you guys enjoyed that and are inspired and are ready for our trip tomorrow to Newfoundland and Labrador. And we will be back on this evening at 7 o'clock for Chat and Craft. I hope to see you then, and have a lovely afternoon. Toodaloo. Bye.